Let's go on a journey. Back in 1975, Xerox's then head of research, George E. Paik, made a bold prediction in Bloomberg Businessweek of what work would look like in 1995. Paik forecasted that he would have a television monitor at his desk that he would, quote, be able to call up documents from my files on the screen, or by pressing a button. Paik went on to predict that he'd be able to get his mail and messages from this desktop TV. It will change our daily life, Paik said, and this could be kind of scary. Welp, he certainly wasn't far off. In 1994, as the world was getting online for the first time, Steve Tellen of Amdahl Corporation coined the term Intranet to describe an internal website that was just for businesses. Intranet trailblazers like Ford, Sun Microsystems, British Telecom, and Boeing built their internal sites to make it easier to share information inside organizations and to remove barriers to success. Welcome to the Internal Comms Procast. I am your host, Barry Williams. Today's guest, Mark Morrell, was there for the birth of the Intranet. He brought British Telecom, now known as BT, online with a staff intranet in the 1990s. In this episode, Mark shares what content works for intranets, how to get IT on your side, and what really matters.
I think people forget about the users some of the times. They think they know what they want, they don't check with them, and they launch new technology or new tools or whatever, and then they're somewhat dismayed when people don't use them or it's not having the desired effect.
The Internal Comms Procast is sponsored by Circle. Let Circle help you maximize your intranet investment by increasing page views and time on site for staff. Circle automatically personalizes your intranet content to make relevant news, events, and documents easy to find for your associates. Circle makes it simple to get the right content to the right person at the right time. Learn more at cerkl.com. Circle, weird spelling, awesome engagement.
I am Mark Morrell. I'm styled as the Intranet Pioneer. My background is really over the last sort of 30 years with internal communications that sort of naturally migrated into more general information management, particularly with the Intranet. I used to work for an organisation called BT, British Telecom, which is a big telecommunications group based in the UK. And when the 1990s came and this word intranet suddenly came into people's vocabulary, I was asked to be the Intranet manager for BT, and I sort of was able to sort of pioneer an approach that helped to demonstrate to a lot of skeptical senior managers that there was clearly some value and benefits in BT having an intranet, and from that sort of developing a strategy, making sure it aligns with the overall strategy, and having some sort of foundations to support that, you know, a framework of standards that people wanted, so they could rely on the information. They knew who to contact because there was an owner on the page. All that sort of thing, along roles and responsibilities, I developed, and it seemed to be the right thing. BT's Intranet was very much seen as a critical business tool, very good communications tool as well.
Mark left BT in 2011 after 30 years of service. He's now known as the Intranet Pioneer. He helps organizations rethink and rework their intranet to communicate more clearly. Mark is commonly called in when the intranet is in serious need of repair.
Well, certainly, without naming names, I tend to find I'm asked to come in when things are pretty much of a mess. Either people have left, or the technology is out of date, or they just don't know what to do. So in terms of the measuring is pretty much, well, we're in a real state. How can you help us, first of all? But it's in my case, it's not so much based around, well, you've now got this technology, so that's the success. It's actually trying to understand what the business requirements are. So it may well be, well, hardly anybody uses it. What can we do to make people use it? And obviously, part of it can be a better design, but it's also about, placing the right tools and information in an easy to find place that people can use more often. It's just it can be simple things like that, but certainly it's leaving it in a much better state in terms of the amount of usage, that the quality of the information and the communications is better than it was. And that's clearly just looking at, the before and the after, that you can use during the engagement. I tend to find it's like that. It's also, and I kid you not, it's even just simply the fact that the person who's asked me and says, do you know what? I'm sleeping a bit easier at night now because we've got this problem sorted out and I can clearly see where we can move forward. Sometimes it's a very genuine human level at which you're trying to meet the goals of while you're on that engagement.
You might not love your intranet. That's super common. I know that I've worked for an organization or two with intranets I've avoided like the plague. One common reason is that the intranet feels out of step with the reality of you and your coworkers day to day. Mark suggests checking your intranet content against organizational objectives to be sure that your efforts are supporting the big goals of your organization.
Well, one thing is making sure it does provide what the business needs, and that is very much a general statement. But clearly, if your organisation is looking to move in one direction, it's making sure that your intranet supports that particular goal. The other thing is making sure that it gives people what they need to do their work on a day-to-day basis and in an easy to consume format. So whether that is the latest news, a process that they need to follow, or the ability to share their thoughts in some sort of a team meeting, whatever it may be, is making sure that it meets that particular need for the individual, but also overall it's in balance with the direction that your organization is moving in, particularly culturally. Intranets can be very closed and very limited in and very much sort of set by levels of permissions and very restrictive, or they can be wonderfully open, vibrant entities that people can use to collaborate, to share information, share their thoughts. It's making sure that you get that balance right between what your organisation is looking for and what people will need on a day-to-day basis. Not always easy, but it's great when you do get it right, and it's very rewarding, and you can see how people are benefiting from it. That's what I get the buzz out of when I can help an organisation. I can see what it was like before I started, and what it is when I finish the engagement with them.
Intranets are great for helping promote a more transparent culture. But Mark warns that poor permission and file management can lead to sensitive documents ending up in the wrong hands. Mark says some simple search terms can reveal that you might be sharing more than you want.
It's amazing the number of times you go to an organisation's intranet and you just say to them, could you just put the words in confidence into your search, and you see the number of results. Even more if you put words like in strictest confidence and the number of search results that come up. That's a sign of how much information that is sensitive, that should not be available, is because people, because the search engine is able to find it. So there is that element. It's also making sure that information that is out of date, has become irrelevant, is managed, properly reviewed, and an expiry date or a removal date is placed on it. The number of times I find that you go into an intranet and you say to them, so what are you doing about these things? There's either a shrug of the shoulders, a shake of the head, and no, we're not doing anything about it. Or, oh, well, we have this policy here, and you look online at this policy and your heart sinks because you see it's about 50 screens worth of densely typed content that no one's read, but it says somewhere in there, oh, you need to manage your information. So it's amazing how much just getting the information that should be there only to be shown, and the rest of the information either deleted, archived, whatever it needs to be done about it. So you've actually got something that people have more confidence about, that they can rely on the integrity of it because they know it's being properly managed, it's up to date, particularly if it's some sort of policy or process, that this is the latest version. That there is, to quote that phrase, one truth. Here it is. This is what I follow. I haven't got to worry about whether this is the latest version or it's the other 2 or 3 that I find on the internet that I'm not quite sure when they were published. Does one succeed the other? Whatever. Why give people all that sort of doubt, all that wasted time, frustration, everything? Just concentrate on the basics and just provide people with the right information that they need and keep it up to date and keep it reviewed.
Be honest, how many times have you been in a meeting about a big organization-wide push and been asked to put this out everywhere? Your intranet, video channels, messages from leadership, departmental meetings, digital signage, video channels, app, and everywhere else you can find eyeballs. Mark believes that this sort of spray and pray method is causing employees to tune out from important organizational messages. Instead, he suggests focusing your intranet efforts on tools that help people work smarter.
I think the biggest problem for communicators is not that information is out of date, is the fact that people can sometimes feel they've been bombarded by it. They've had it in an email. They've had it on the latest news. They've had it as a message that's been sent by their manager for their team meeting. They've had a webinar about it. You name it, they've been told about it. And actually, it's not adding anything because they've used every single channel going. I think shouting a message louder doesn't make it any more effective. Sometimes it's less is more. I think the problem for communicators is understanding which is the best channel for the message, using that well, and not trying to think, oh, belt and braces, I better send it on this one as well and that one as well. Actually, it just switches people off rather than gets people to read it and see it several times over. People are intelligent. They get it. If it's a well communicated message, it should only really need to be sent out through the right channel rather than through every channel. That I think is probably more of a problem that I find when I talk to people who receive internal communications. When I talk to internal communicators, they think that's the way to do, and that's a bit of a disconnect. And when that happens, it's frustrating for senior managers because they wonder why their message is not getting through as effectively as they want it to. I'm sure that many people would probably have a different view to me on that, but that's just been my experience when I've worked with organizations. Certainly, if you were to ask people in a survey, what do you want to see on the intranet? The top one will not be news. It will be more to do with the information or the tools that they need to do their job every day. There will be somewhere in that list, and quite prominently, I want to know the latest news to do it, but I've never seen it be the top one. And I think internal communicators forget that people use the intranet for their news to find out latest, but it's lots of other things as well that they need to do on a day-to-day basis that is probably more important to them on a daily need.
It can be difficult to identify when it's time to reevaluate your intranet presence or provider. Mark has some key performance indicators he continually measures to see if there's trouble on the horizon.
Then you'll very quickly see a drop-off in the usage, and you'll see the number of, if there's any feedback channel, negative feedback coming through saying, I can't find this, I can't do that, why can't it do this, I want this rather than that. So there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that I think very quickly comes to the surface. But I guess if you did any quick online poll, that would also tell you immediately whether you're getting high or low satisfaction rates. I think it's also, I think if you've got some technology that was maybe fine 5, maybe 10 years ago, clearly, unless it's been upgraded, it's not going to meet the needs that people now have. It's people's needs change very rapidly. Same with organizations. You need to make sure that you're not only providing the most usable way that people can do it, can use the internet, it may well be that the technology just needs to be updated or changed to meet what people want it to do now. And that obviously is something that you need to research. The ideal thing is to know in advance when it's no longer going to meet the current needs of people and the business. That's very difficult to do, but the point is you don't start experiencing the pain of, I don't know, it's breaking down. So we have outages that are causing problems, or, oh, the license runs out next month. We don't want to renew it. We want something to replace it. What do we do? All those things I've faced, they are nightmares and unnecessarily. So I think it's understanding when it doesn't meet your needs. So this can mean, for example, the organization is maybe it's expanding and therefore it has a need to involve more remote working, communications and so on. And the tools you've got at the moment that support your internet cannot do that. It really comes down to where, it no longer has the channels, the features, the reliability to keep meeting the needs of the organisation that may have been fine 3-5 years ago, but now don't. And clearly, maybe the direction of the existing internet provider, their technology is in one direction, but your organisation is diversified and needs something in another. So it's, it can be anything from a real sort of heavy duty document management system type tool to a very light and easy collaboration tool, which people can use. It's understanding where your organisation is now and where it's going as to what that new internet provider should be.
Coming up on the Internal Comms Procast, Mark shares his strategy for battling IT and how to pick the right medium for your message.
So it's very, very simple, I think it means, for a good internet. In other words, if they can find the right information at the right time in the right way that helps the person to get their job done easier, quicker, more effectively, all those things.
Internal Comms Pro is proud to present the Rise and Shine series, coming to a city near you. Rise and Shine gives you access to what's hot and brewing in the internal comms world. Each session is energized with insights from the most well-connected internal communicators across the country. See where we're going to be next and join the fun for free at internalcommspro.com/shine. We're back with insights from the Intranet Pioneer, Mark Morrell. At some point in the life of your intranet, it'll be time to make changes, and that might mean engaging your IT department. Maybe you're lucky enough to enjoy a great, mutually beneficial, and wholly collaborative relationship with your IT department. A relationship where everyone feels valued, heard, and understood. But if you're not, Mark feels your pain and has some advice.
I think some of my worst enemies have been the IT person. So I can't speak from a flawless experience. In fact, many a time I think I've been brought in by organisations to say, look, I just can't get on with these guys over in IT, so I'm bringing you in for you to do that hard graft for me. My tips would be, first of all, as I said earlier, you need to know you're talking the same language and you're using the same terms that mean the same things. If I take one piece of technology that I think a lot of people will have some familiarity with, SharePoint. SharePoint uses terms that either are the same as what are general business terms, but mean different roles, or you're talking about the same role but using completely different terms. So the best thing I have always found with IT is to get in a meeting room with them, get to see their body language, them to see you, them to realize you're genuine, and that you can start to build that understanding at a personal level. I really do feel that if you and the IT person that you're working with don't get on, it is very, very difficult to move forward with whatever it is you're trying to do. Once you've established that, it's then understanding what their priorities are and what yours are. And you'll find they are different, but there will be some that overlap. So that immediately is a good basis for agreement and to build upon. And where they're different, and normally I've always found, I know we've got so many different channels to do it, but actually good old fashioned meeting in the same time zone, in the same place with the person there, gets that understanding to start with. You can by all means work on it after that. You can find you trust each other. You've got that understanding, but it is frustrating. It is finding when you're making those changes with technology that that's when the different priorities come in, and it's understanding each other and each other's predicaments. It's not like someone is trying to just stitch you up and just out of, I don't know, sheer stupidity or viciousness wanting to make your life difficult. Hey, no. They're trying to do their job. You're trying to do yours. It's how you can accommodate each other. So you're doing it for the overall benefit of the organization and the people who are going to use this.
As you design or redesign your organization's intranet, choosing what media and channels you will communicate in can be a mind-boggling challenge. Don't overthink it. Ultimately, Mark believes an intranet is most successful when it removes barriers and respects audience preferences.
Well, I think if it's a good intranet, people get the right news when they need it. They can choose how they want to receive it, whether it's a podcast, for example, that they listen to while they're on the move from their mobile device, or it's reading the full presentation, whatever it is, that they're getting it in the way that meets their particular needs. And I think it's also making sure it just makes their job easier to do. So it's very, very simple, I think it means, for a good intranet. In other words, if they can find the right information at the right time, in the right way, that helps the person to get their job done easier, quicker, more effectively, all those things, that I think is what a good intranet's there. It's there to support the business. It's there to be a critical business tool, and a good communications tool as well. And I think that's the sort of things that I would like to see people aiming to do. I think people forget about the users some of the times. They think they know what they want. They don't check with them, and they launch new technology or new tools or whatever, and then they're somewhat dismayed when people don't use them or it's not having the desired effect. And I think it's all about that, checking with people, seeing what it is they need, making sure that the message that's communicated is the one in which you're going to get the change in behaviour that you're expecting by this communication.
To increase intranet usage, some organizations force in-house browsers to point to the homepage each time a window is open. Mark suggests organizations stay away from that trope and instead focus on growing their usage numbers by making their intranet a true hub of business. When you are designing your intranet homepage, there might be pressure from leadership to design it around their preferred work experience. Mark says this is a place to stand your ground and wave the flag for greater user experience, not edge case edits. If you're facing a usability battle with leaders, arm yourself with staff feedback to keep the discussion on track.
I guess I was fortunate I had a good relationship with my senior managers that I could convince them when inevitably the request would come. Oh, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. Say, well, yeah, I could do that, but you do realise that, Mr. or Ms. or Mrs. Senior Manager, that you're not the typical person who's using this intranet and looking for that information. Yes, it's important that we have that up there, but this is what people say. Do you really want to make that change? Most times I could have a good conversation and have the outcome that I wanted. Didn't win everything, and obviously there were small changes that were made.
When it's time to make changes, it might be tempting to let things go for a while in favor of a big, splashy overhaul. It's Mark's belief that gradual, thoughtful changes lead to better adoption rates. If you're making a big change, Mark suggests running the old version in tandem with the new to give people time to adjust. Here's how it worked when he was at BT.
But in terms of major changes, in terms of branding and the layout, we would tend to do small incremental changes. We would survey people every year, and we'd listen to what they said as well as what the business needed, and we would make adjustments incrementally over a year or so, rather than go for storing them all up, big bang, big change. And when we did want to make a change, we would run a beta version of the new page alongside the existing one for the period of time, so people could get adjusted to it. ITs will be, we want to launch it immediately. We want to get it out there because we've got to save money and close the other things down. And you're saying, whoa, hold on a minute. We haven't even tested this yet. We don't know whether it even meets anybody's needs or not. You've got to give us time to test it with people and to make it good, because when the new technology is launched, you've got one chance, and that is the first chance people have got, and it needs to be a good experience. It's no good launching something and saying, yeah, I know that was rubbish. Yeah, I know it was a real pain for you, and hell, you had to sort of spend far more time on it, but it's a bit better now, so if you try it, it'll be all right. The reluctance that people have is quite natural. The amount of time that you then have to spend persuading people to do that is far more in terms of time and effort than if you just hold on that little bit longer before you launch it. It's a good experience. People couldn't then make the excuse of, oh, this is so different, I can't find anything. Well, actually, to be honest, you still got those requests, but we kept them to a minimum because we allowed people to make that transition and make that adjustment from one to the other. And we would also flip. So when it was the new launch and the launch and the new page was up there, we would keep the old one for a short period of time, just to get people readjusted. Yeah, look, this is where it was. And we would communicate, look, this has moved, this is going to happen, this section here is going to be expanded, this one's going to be reduced, this one's going to be more towards this part of the page. We tried to be as helpful as you could. Some people, it just didn't matter what you did, it was not going to work. But for most people, they got it, they understood it, they appreciated the effort that I put in to try and ease them into that change and to make better hit the ground running and get the full benefit of the changes we've made.
We want to sincerely thank Mark for his insight in this episode. If you'd like more of Mark's sage intranet wisdom, you can check out his book, Digital Success or Digital Disaster, on his website, intranet-pioneer.com.
Which really covers the difference that you can make with your intranet or your digital workplace or your collaboration space, whatever it is. There's some simple do's and don'ts that you can follow that will help you to do that, whatever technology you're using. There's a new chapter going to be up there about SharePoint. So if anybody has a particular interest in SharePoint, there's a chapter specifically just about that.
Thank you to Intranet Focus for their History of Intranet report, which we consulted heavily for this episode. You will find a link in the show notes. Next time on the Internal Comms Procast, two communicators share their internal communications planning approaches, how they make time to plan,
turn off email, turn off your phone, put it on Do Not Disturb, forward your work phone, whatever,
what tools they use.
I am not really a fancy Nancy, I would say, when it comes to tools, because I don't really believe that you need anything beyond the Microsoft Office suite to create an excellent plan.
And how they turn their plans into internal communication success. I hope you will join us. Be a better communicator with a free Internal Comms Pro newsletter. Each week, we deliver a personalized email newsletter full of news, events, and best practices from our collective of trusted internal communications thought leaders. Subscribe at internalcommspro.com/newsletter. Internal Comms Procast is produced by Super Awesome Media. Our executive producer is Rachel Foles. Connor Sweeney is our engineer, and Michael Musili is our digital media specialist. Our theme music is Please Listen Carefully by Jawser via the Free Music Archive. Our intro music is The Dapper Derp by True Loves. Show notes and more are available at internalcommspro.com.